Women's Wellness Authority is your go-to podcast for discovering the hidden gems of holistic health and well-being. In each episode, we dive deep into the many layers of wellness, from mental and physical health to spiritual growth. Through insightful interviews with experts, healers, and thought leaders, we uncover alternative approaches, healing practices, and fresh perspectives that empower you to transform your life. Whether you're seeking innovative ways to heal your body, your mind, or nourish your soul, this podcast offers practical tools and wisdom to help you thrive in all areas of your life. Let's rewrite the rules of wellness together. Step into your power, reclaim your health, and discover what it means to truly thrive from the inside out. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Women's Wellness Authority. I'm your host, Diana Ruszkowski. And today we're exploring something so many of us face, but don't often talk about. And that's what happens when life shifts. The roles we've poured ourselves into begin to fade, and we're left wondering, now what? My guest today, Kimberly Jarboe, a former educator, full-time mom to 4, and a now thriving real estate professional who completely reinvented herself at 50. So when her children left home and she had a major move out of state, Kimberly found herself sitting in the stillness of an empty house and an unfamiliar life. What she discovered in that quiet space is something we can all learn from. Reinvention doesn't happen overnight. It starts in the dark and in uncertainty and in the mud. In this episode, we talk about what it means to be brave enough to ask, who am I without the roles I've always played? And what's possible when you finally step into that light for yourself. Kimberly shares her raw, beautiful story of transformation, from the fears, the guilt, and identity shifts to finding new joy, purpose, and connection in this next chapter of her life. And if you've ever felt like you've lost yourself, or you're standing at the edge of something new and not quite sure how to move forward, this conversation's for you. So Kimberly, welcome, and thanks for joining us today and sharing your story.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so excited. So let's explore your journey and your story. Can you take us back to the moment when you were preparing for your youngest to leave the home? Would you say that's sort of the inflection point in your journey?
Well, I've been thinking about this, and to be honest, we moms are always preparing for our children to leave the home. You know, I had 4 children, 5.5 years and younger. I call it amazing chaos, mostly. It was a lot. And I stayed home with them. My husband worked really hard to take care of us. And it was a full job. And I remember when my youngest went to kindergarten, she got on the bus for the first time, and I followed the bus, and I parked in the parking lot, and I waited for her to get off the bus, and I watched her walk in, and she was so joyful and so excited, and I sat there bawling. And I called my mom and I said, "I'm a stay-at-home mom with no one staying home anymore.
Yeah.
Now what?" But, I mean, let's be honest, just because you had a couple of hours in the day with all my kids in the school, didn't mean I didn't have a full plate. Yeah, it was cleaning and groceries and errands and after-school activities times 4.
Times 4, yeah.
And it was still very full. But as parents, if you're doing your job right, you're teaching your children to need you less and less and differently. So we're all working towards that
Yeah.
because we want them to be these amazing young adults. So all of a sudden, how many years later, I'm at home with my youngest, and definitely different because as they're getting older, they're more independent. They don't want to hang out with me as much. They're off doing great things. Some of them are in college. And it was like, wow, what's going on here? And then we decided as a family, okay, well, that wasn't just a big enough change. Let's move to a new state. Let's move away from all our family. Let's start over. Why not? And then on top of that, I was turning 50. So there were just all of these big transitions happening at once that made me go, "Oh boy, now what?"
I remember you made the choice to move, but before your daughter graduated, right?
Yeah, it was actually when our first son, our 3rd child, he was going to graduate from high school, and my husband got this opportunity. It was after COVID. He had been working from home for a couple of years, and when he walked out of the office one day, he goes, "Do you wanna move to Florida?" And I looked at him, and at that point, I remember in all the years of raising kids, I had said no to a lot of moves. We had a lot of opportunities to go abroad, go across country, and I said, "Absolutely not. I cannot raise 4 children, 4 littles without my family. I'm not doing it." End of story. And so when he came out of that office and said that, there was just something inside of me that said, "You don't wanna regret this. You don't wanna regret this in 20 years and be in your 70s and go, 'Remember when we could have taken a chance?'" Because let's be honest, we were comfortable. Everything was just comfortable. I could have lived where I lived. My kids would have been thrilled to come back for holidays and with their families and in the big house, and it would have been lovely. But we looked at each other and we said, "Do we wanna just be comfortable?"
Hmm.
And we both agreed that if we didn't do it now, if we didn't take the chance, we probably would never take a chance. And so we took the chance. And he commuted for 16 months prior to
Yes, and
moving down.
you stayed in
Stayed back.
Connecticut, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I remember because Kimberly and if for those who did listen to my first episode, I talk about this group of women who during COVID were my lifeline, and we did a lot of work on ourselves, and Kimberly was one of those women in that group, and we talk all the time about what that time in our life did for us, and it prepared both of us to be able to make those leaps and feel confident enough in making big changes in our life, and I think it was because of all that work we did in that group where we shared and were vulnerable and said I can specifically remember you sitting in your kitchen and just saying, "Who am I?" Like, "I'm a mom. I'm just a mom." And we were like, "You're more than just a mom. You're a wife. You're, like, an amazing woman. You have so much to offer people." And I remember you just being so limited in the way you thought,
Mhm.
and that from that to the conversation we had the other day to prep for this call, you have this amazing career now in real estate. And, that Kimberly 6 years ago would have never said, "I'm gonna be a real estate agent."
No, that Kimberly would have stayed very stuck in her role as mom, as nurturer, as taking care of everything except herself.
Hmm.
And you and that entire group of women opened my eyes, shined a light on me that I didn't realize was missing. Like, it never occurred to me to do more. Again, I was content. I loved being a stay-at-home mom. Even when I was in college, that's all I wanted to do. And I had a stay-at-home mom raising me, so it was just a model that I wanted so badly. And when I met my husband, and he felt the same way, and we made so many sacrifices to do it, that's who I thought I was. And when you're momming, it's so intense, right?
Mhm.
Like, you can't see outside of it. You just can't because you're in it, and it's a lot.
And a lot of the times, they're the priority, they're the focus, right? You talked a little bit in our conversation prepping for this call, you talked about an analogy which I thought was really beautiful, which is the spotlight. If you're on stage, that the entire time you were a stay-at-home mom, that spotlight was on everybody else but you, and you were fine with that. But then once there was no one on stage to put the spotlight on, the only person left was you.
Right.
But you didn't step into it.
No. And, that's okay. That's okay that I didn't initially step into it because there's so many people who are like, okay, what's the next step? What are you going to do? Like, I mean, from the moment I let my daughter, had my daughter go to kindergarten, when no one was home, I had people saying, well, what's next? What are you going to do? You getting a job? You doing this? And I remember going, gosh, I just need to breathe.
Mhm.
I need to breathe for a second. Like, let me enjoy these couple of hours. And if I do nothing in those couple of hours and then am going, running full throttle when they're home, I think I'm deserving of that. It's okay to not know what's next immediately, because I think that's where the magic happens. Like, I had to sit in the dark, I had to sit in the mud, and it was messy. And when we said yes to Florida, I don't want anyone to think that life was magically awesome, because it was not.
Mhm.
It was not. It was hard. And there was a lot of self-doubt, a lot of reflection to get to where I am.
So can we talk about that being in the dark, that mess, that being in the mud, and the feelings that it evoked in you, and what then got you out of the mud? What made you take that step forward?
First of all, growth happens in the valley. I truly believe that. I tell my children that all the time. You are not learning lessons when you are standing on the top of that mountain. When
Can I just pause for a second? I joke with Kimberly all the time. I think she's a fantastic parent. I go to her for advice all the time, and I keep telling her, "Please write all these things down for everyone. You need to write a parenting book."
maybe that's next.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tell them all the time that when you've gotten to the mountain, you can take it all in, you can be proud, but your lessons were in the mud, climbing up the mountain. And
So true.
it took a while for me to climb the mountain. I was in the mud for a long time. When we moved to Florida, we moved twice. My husband hated this.
In a period of how many years?
In a period of 9 months.
You moved
We moved
twice.
from Connecticut to Miami, and Miami to Palm Beach Gardens, where we
And you moved where you had no friends, no support
yeah.
system, right?
Oh,
Because I think that's important. You left your family, your parents, your sister, your niece, and your
my
nephews,
brother, yeah,
your brother, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And all your kids were in college at this point, or your youngest was going to
She was going to college.
yeah.
And so we went to Miami, and my husband did not like his job. And it was just not the right fit. And when I got there and I said, okay, now I got to start like figuring myself out, he's like, ooh, not thrilled with the job. Let's find a new job. So he got a new job and he goes, well, now we have to move again. I'm like, oh my goodness. Okay, well, good thing I did not do anything to get settled here. And we moved again 9 months later, and he loves his job. So he was taken care of. And then it was my turn. Now there was no more excuses, right? I didn't have to take care of anybody else anymore because everyone was happy. My daughter was happy when she went to school. My son was in school. My other two girls were great. Matt was great. And now it was, well, now what? And
Was that an internal pressure you felt like? Was it pressure from family or just like society? Like, well, what are you gonna do now?
no, it was me. It was, I cannot sit here for days. There were days I would just sit in the house and the only person I would talk to is Matt when he came home. And if no one's living at your house, I mean, how much laundry, how much cleaning can one person do? And I would sit there and I knew I could be doing something. I knew I could feel it, but I could not get out of my own way
Mhm.
because I was mom and I was waiting for everyone to call me when they needed me. I had to be there. I've had that.
That's the role that you've
Yeah,
done.
role.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's who you defined as who you were, right?
Yes. So always accessible, could drop anything, was there when they came home with, all the meals, all ready to mom again, all the advice. And that I sat in what felt dark. It did feel dark for a while. Not like so dramatic, like, oh my gosh, but I knew I had an amazing life. But I was
Not
I had
just
just
film.
50. I wasn't fulfilled anymore because I had put all of myself into these amazing children who have now gone off and done amazing things. I did exactly what I was supposed to be doing. I'm so proud of who they are. But now, then what? And I sat in it a long time. I thought about ways to do things. Should I go back to school? Should I?
Because you were a former teacher, right?
I was a former educator. What should I do? And I started, I mean, just like putting everything, like Googling everything, just because, like, should I just go work at a mall just to get out and talk to people? But none of that felt right. I wasn't comfortable. I wasn't ready. I was so scared. I did not think I could do anything else.
Hmm. And so you took, like, all these, like, little baby steps forward, but then backwards.
Oh, like I would take a small, tiny step forward and then I go way back, like way back. And then I'd sit there and I'd be crying. And, I try to do all this like self help stuff, you know, and it took my husband to help me start seeing that I could be something else. That yes, I was a great mom. I am a great mom. We have amazing children. We have an amazing relationship as husband and wife. But there was something else for me to do.
So then how did you get to that next step?
I remember,
How did you step into the light?
well,
Not
I remember calling my friend who's my boss now. And I said, "Hey, Matt thinks I would be a really good realtor. There's a lot of education involved, nurturing, helping, all the things that I have always done." And he's like, "Kim, it's $700 to take the class. Like, big whoop. Like, if it stinks and you hate it, so what?" So I called her and I said, "Tell me there's too many people doing real estate right now." And she said, "Yeah, a lot of bad real estate realtors, a lot of bad ones." She goes, "Come work for me and you're going to be really good." And I said, "Oh, crud." I'm like, "Okay, okay." So, and I put all of myself into taking this class. Like, my brain hurt so badly because it was just, it was something new and different. I was back in school and I was like, oh my gosh. And I go, I'm too old. I'm too old for this. I shouldn't be doing this. Matt would come home.
That was the voice in your head saying those things to you.
Yep. And he'd come home and he'd be like, "You're doing great. You just got a 95 on the quiz. Like, you're doing great. You're doing great." Because you had to take quizzes for every chapter to unlock. Then I had to take the class exam and I was sick to my stomach. I was like, "I'm going to fail. I'm going to fail. I'm going to fail. What if I fail?" "Kim, you're not going to fail. You're going to be great. And if you fail, so what? Take it again. So what?" So I take it. I passed. And now I have to take the state exam. I'm like, oh my goodness. I can't do it. I can't do it. He found me one day hysterically crying. Like, what am I doing? This is so dumb. I cannot take this exam. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna embarrass myself and I'm gonna fail. And what if I fail? And now people know that I'm taking this exam. And at first I wasn't gonna tell anybody I was doing this. But I did say, you know what? I have cheered my children on for every major and minor event in their life.
Mhm.
Everything. I have been the biggest woo-hooer there was. And so I put it out there in our family group text. "Guys, I'm going to do real estate. I'm taking the exam. I'm taking the class. Could use your support." And they're like, "Oh my gosh, mom, you're going to be so awesome. This is so great for you. Wow, I cannot believe this. This is so amazing. Oh my gosh, of course you're going to do so well." And the cheers and the support that they brought for me was just it was so good. But then there was a pressure, right? Because now I tell
Yeah.
people, now I put it out. And I remember going for the exam and just being like, "Okay, I have nothing to lose. Like, I'll just retake it if I have to take it again." And take the exam, and then you have to walk out to the proctor. And I said, how'd I do? She goes, just collect your things. I said, ma'am. I'm like, ma'am, how'd I do?
Yeah.
She goes, today's going to be a very good day for you. And I just sat in the car and I started hysterically crying in joy.
Yeah.
Is I had set out to do something and I did it. But that wasn't where the real change came from. I mean, that was a really big, gigantic step. But actually, then having to go out into the world and present myself as an expert while I was learning the whole business was where, like, I started really feeling, okay, I've done it.
Like you felt full alignment, like this feels right.
It
Right.
felt right. It felt I was in the spotlight for the first time in a long time. I was dressing up every day. I had to get a whole new wardrobe. I was interacting with people. People wanted my knowledge, my help. And what I have been loving about it is I know what transition is like. I know what reinventing myself has been like. I know what taking big risks is like. And I have met some people that I've been able to help that are doing the exact same thing. And so we've been able to relate on that. And I think it's such an authentic way to do real estate is it's not just transactional. I really love to hear people's stories and figure out why they're doing this. Like, why are you moving so far away from your comfort zone? And oh my gosh, I get to help you start that new chapter because you want to begin again. Oh, it's such a blessing.
And so all the things that you went through, you wouldn't be able to be the real estate agent you are today without those struggles, right? Because you took the chance, you made the move, you struggled, so now you can empathize with them, and that brings your uniqueness to the table, right?
Yeah, I think I agree with you in that. I think I could have been a real estate agent
Prior
and
to that. Yeah.
I could have been. But I think that my experiences, times in the mud, me climbing up, because I feel like I'm just climbing. I haven't made it anywhere.
I'm climbing too. I feel like I'm at the very bottom of that mountain, right? I take a few steps.
Yeah, but it's okay because we're going up.
Yep.
We're not sitting in the mud anymore. We're not stuck. We know where we want to be
Mhm.
and we're moving forward.
Yeah.
And yes, there's always going to be a little bit of a backslide. That happens. Learn from it, keep going. And so I just know that what I've experienced has translated to what I'm doing now and helping people in various ways. Like I've been able to help young couple, a woman, starting over alone. Like there's just so many different areas that I've been able to navigate and it's really been beautiful. It's not just a transaction and I'm so happy that I have that perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I think making the decision to buy a home is such a big one.
Huge.
And I'm a relationship person and I want somebody to do exactly what you're doing versus, just being transactional because it's such a big move. You talked a little bit about your husband's support. So you had that inner voice that was sort of like blowing out your candle, knocking you down, but your husband really supported you and then, you were vulnerable with your kids and were surprised by their reaction. What about others? Because I think it's so important that when you're exploring this new path that you surround yourself with the right people. So your spouse's support, I think, means so incredibly much and your family because they're your people.
Mhm.
But what else? What other people were supportive for you and different points in your life that maybe you pulled from in these scenarios to help you move forward? Like that community or the village we've talked about.
Yeah. It's funny because as I've gotten older, my circle has gotten smaller, which is okay.
I've heard that happens.
It happens. I think as you're figuring yourself out and they're figuring themselves out, you really only have space for people who bring no chaos,
Mhm.
No issues. And that doesn't mean like that they're not struggling with things and you're not there for them. That's not what I'm talking about. It's just no BS.
Yeah.
And with the move, it just so happened that it was kind of like an easier
Clean slate.
slate. So there wasn't a lot of people. I have my best girlfriend for sure, my parents, my sister, my aunt. Those were people that I slowly started trickling this new path to. I was not really telling everybody, like, hey, look what I'm doing. A, because I didn't want to fail and then have to go back to them. That
Mhm.
was huge. B was because they've known me in one way for so long. And I thought that I didn't think that they were going to react badly, but I didn't want even an ounce of, what are you doing?
Mhm.
I
I can relate to this, yes.
and because when we moved to Florida, there was a lot of that, and I can understand because we really rocked the boat when we moved away from everybody, 100%, and we made that decision in spite of everybody being like, "What the heck are you doing? Where are you going? You can't go. You've always been here. Who's gonna hold all the holidays? Who's gonna take care of this and that?" Yeah, I know. I know what I'm doing is gonna ruffle your feathers and make you have to do things differently, but we have to. And maybe we'll be back, but we have to do it.
Mhm.
But once I did start telling them, they're like, "Wow, you're gonna be so good at this. Oh my gosh, I'm so proud of you." Like, you're 51 years old and you still want to hear from your parents.
Yeah.
I'm so proud of you. And they did. And I remember when I got my first contract, through, and what I do, I tell my parents. And they're like, "Oh my gosh, this is so great." It was very funny, but it felt good. And I relied heavily on all the lessons that you and I learned during all of those classes, those retreats, yeah, those sessions with women that wanted us to succeed in any way.
Yep.
Just being our authentic selves. And I had never experienced that on a group level.
I had never experienced that, period. I had never been involved in a group of women who were so blindly supportive of wanting to see you succeed in something because I came from a corporate culture, which was a little cutthroat, that any other female, I was always like, "Are you rooting for me or are you rooting that I hopefully quit, leave, you're gonna stab me in the back because you want that promotion X, Y, and Z." So that whole environment to me was like, I couldn't I like, "Is this real? Is this right?" And then we both got invited to this retreat out at our friend's ranch in California, and it was sort of I don't it wasn't a yoga retreat exactly, but it was really for self-growth, and you and I met, what, like, a day or 2 before, and we did like a little trip, which both of us were like, "This is not normally something we would do," is like go exploring. And I remember we sat down, I'm like, "Let's journal." And I think I said something like, "We should just write down our wishes or like what we want to do or what we want out of this trip." And I have a picture of that. And we were talking about this the other day, and you were saying that's where you just talked about at that point, had you made the decision to move to Florida? I don't know. No. And I had not made the decision to move to South Carolina, but both of us knew what we were going to end up doing. But just to your point, so scared to actually commit to it or start telling people or talking about it. And so that moment for me is so special of us just sitting at the pool, writing down like what it is that we wanted to do.
Yeah.
And that was such a special 2 days. The whole trip was amazing, but that 2 days with you in particular, I feel like just really solidified like the bond between you and I. And we've been so supportive of each other since. Yeah.
And what I love about that story is we had been on Zooms
Yes.
and classes back and forth, but never had met in person except one other time. And I remember putting out there in the group text, "Hey, I'm gonna go out for a couple of days early. Does anyone wanna join me?" And you said yes. And I remember my husband going, "Well, who are you going with?" It's like, "Well, it's Diana." Do you know her?" It's like, "Yes. Yes, I know her."
Yeah.
But
But you're right, and we didn't live too far from each other, 40 minutes, but we never met in person, and yeah.
we were, different stages of mothering and whatever, but we were meant to have that connection.
Yeah.
I wholeheartedly believe in those 2 days where we really just sat with dreams and thoughts and just having time to bounce off of one another and just
Without judgment.
without judgment.
Yeah.
It was so special. It really was. And from that moment on, we've always had just such a connection.
Yeah.
And then what's just so great is we both kind of were in the mud at the same time in different ways. And here we are just climbing out of it. Like,
Yeah, and I think the move helps me climb out of the mud, and then, I was probably stuck, and then losing my job, I slid back,
yeah.
and now I'm, like, I feel like sprinting past that point I was at before, but all the reason why your story resonates, I think, with me and will resonate with a lot of people that it could happen at the stage of life that you're in right now, which is your kids, you know, flew the nest and you're reinventing yourself. But I feel like there's a lot of my friends who are in their early 40s that are feeling the exact same way. We've been working really hard in these jobs that have defined who we are. And now we're at a point where it's just not, we're not satisfied anymore. And there's more that we want. We just don't know what that is or how to get there. And so I feel like I'm you, but I'm still far behind. I'm still climbing the very lower part of the mountain because I know that there's something coming that's bigger and better that's going to be really fulfilling to me.
I think that we as moms, whether you've stayed at home or work outside the home, we tend to put ourselves last, do what's best for our families, and stay behind.
Mhm.
So for me, that was taking care of all the stuff in the house and for all my kids. You probably stayed in a job longer than you ever wanted to because
Yeah, I was burning the candle at both ends because
yeah,
I wanted to be more present for my kids,
right.
which, you know, working from home full time allowed me to have more flexibility for sure, but then I wasn't fulfilled on I was still burning I was still burning the candle both ways, right? And not feeling fulfilled in either one because I felt so stressed out all the time.
That's not easy, especially when you can't even have a definitive boundary when you're working from home
Mhm.
and you had family life, work life, and it's all
In the same place, yeah.
yeah.
Can we talk about how in this new chapter, how relationships have shifted for you? So how has you sort of stepping into your spotlight changed your marriage or how you're parenting with your kids? Especially now because they're their own people and they're adults, right?
I think I have really good relationships with my children. My husband and I did a really good job early on. We have always been very open, had all the tough conversations, said yes when I really wanted to say no because I was so afraid, said no when it would be easier to say yes. And that has helped as they have become young adults and moved into these amazing lives that they're creating for themselves. And to watch all of your hard work as a parent, all the fun, all the times you cried as a parent, thinking that you were screwing them up, and then watching, like, oh my gosh, these guys are fabulous. It's been such a joy to connect with them as people. And they're starting to see me and my husband as people, not just
Mom and dad.
mom and dad.
Yeah.
And gosh, it's so funny because I'll have one of them come and say, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry." I'm so sorry. I did this. I'm like, it's fine. It's just the way it was. And no, no, now I understand. I understand now. And I'm like, I hate you would. It's fine. But we've been able to just connect on deeper levels because we're just people trying to figure each other out. And yeah, there are times I'm still momming them. Like, they're like, Mom, I just had a couple of them home last night and they're like, Mom, it's okay. I'm like, I know. But there's a lot of joy in spending time with young adults who you've helped create. It's really quite magical. I will say that it's different for sure. I know we all have these moments where, I remember being like so sad about change and about growing up and not having the babies anymore. And yes, that those smells and everything, it's just so delicious. But
But also so hard.
so hard. There's not the hardest stage of parenting is the one you're at.
Yeah.
Hands down. But there is so much beauty in your children getting older and flying. And I always said this, like, if you have made really strong roots and your connections are really strong, it doesn't matter how far they go
Mm.
because their wings will bring them back.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
And so that always just keeps me kind of grounded, even when I cry again to say goodbye,
Yeah.
which still happens,
Yeah.
but that's okay. And as for my husband, like, now being able to focus on each other even more so, we always tried to make sure that we were, always on the same page because if we weren't on the same page, everything else was off.
Yeah.
It was just so messy. And now having the time to cultivate a new relationship that's not about being someone's mom and dad and finding things, "Oh, we wanna play tennis? Okay. Oh, you wanna learn. You wanna ride your bike for 15 miles? Go for it. You're gonna get a new job, and I'm not gonna be able to, like, make dinner all the time now,"
Yeah.
which was, role defining for me. Okay. I'll cook you something. Want a quesadilla? I'll make us quesadillas, and like one day I came home, it's like 7:30. I'm like, I just do not know what I can't even think about cooking. I've been in heels for 10 hours. My
Yeah.
feet hurt. It's like, I'll make quesadilla. Like, oh, I love you. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. It's the best meal.
Yeah.
So he's just been the tables have turned a little bit because I've always been the supportive spouse for all of his monumental work shifts.
Mhm.
You're getting a promotion? Of course you're getting a promotion. You're amazing. And now he's doing the same for me. Like, oh my gosh, you just went to contract? This is amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
Excited for you. It feels really good. And
I could see it all over your face when you talk.
yeah,
Your smile. Yeah.
it's really good. And you know, I will be honest, it took we made this decision in 2022. It's now 2025. 3 years in the making to be so joyful.
Yeah. Yeah, because we don't wanna give the impression you make a decision and
Mm-mm.
you made that decision that was hard, and then all of a sudden everything falls into place and it's great, right? Because that's not life.
That's not life. That is not what happened. If it happens for someone, that's amazing, but it took a lot of trial and error, a lot of mistakes, like and then not mistakes. I never like even when we moved to Miami and Matt was like, "Oh my gosh, I made us move to Miami." I was like, "Well, Sadie had to go to Miami because she now goes to University of Miami, and
Yeah.
it's her school. She
Yeah.
had to be there. And if we hadn't gone to Miami, she wouldn't have gone there."
Yeah.
And it's like we
Everything served its purpose.
everything served its purpose. And to then land here and figure it all out, well, for the moment, because you never figure it all out. I mean, that's life. But figure it all out and be in such a good space is it's really freaking amazing.
So, what advice would you leave with the listeners? Looking back, was the fear that you had, was that worth facing?
100%. And I've told this to a few people that 100% was worth every doubt, concern, nauseous feeling that we had when we decided to make the move, when I decided to try a new profession. Because what could happen? If you don't fail and you're successful in it, fabulous. If you do fail and you have to pivot again, no big deal. But if you don't try it at all, I did not want that regret. And I would not want that for anybody else. Because everything's really fixable. That's what I've kind of learned. Like, there's really no decision. There's not too many decisions that I think are unfixable, correctable, especially when you have the right people by your side.
Yeah, I do think that is huge. I remember being asked to sit down in a really quiet space and write. This was, after I got let go and wanting to move forward and maybe building a wellness business. And I was so afraid. I'm like, all the things I've been talking about for years, now I have the chance to do it, but I don't know if I can. And I was told, well, write down what would happen if it didn't. And I wrote all those things down. And then I looked at it a couple days later and I'm like, it actually would it be that big of a deal?
Yeah.
Really? But in your head, if I left that all in my head,
Oh, yeah.
that would have just spiraled. And then there's days where I have the self-doubt and like, "Ugh, what are you doing? Is this really going to work?" I just remind myself about that exercise because once I took it out of my brain and I wrote it down, the fear of not trying, to your point, is far greater than the fear of I tried and it didn't work out. And that working out might end up leading me to something else, just like it led to you, right?
Yeah.
That
I
second
agree.
move is what led you to the reaching out and just saying, "Oh, do you think I'd be a good real estate agent?" And now look at you, right? It's just so beautiful. But all right, I'm happy. I can see that. Yeah, no, and so good to see. So thank you so much for joining me and Kimberly for this powerful conversation. I hope her story reminded you that reinvention doesn't have an expiration date and that the quiet, the messy, uncertain moments in our lives often hold the greatest potential for growth. Whether you're an empty nester, stepping into midlife, or simply sensing that something inside you is ready to shift, this is your invitation to pause, reflect, and ask, what lights me up now? You don't have to have it all figured out like we talked about. You just have to be willing to sit in the unknown for a little while and trust that clarity and courage will come. Kimberly's journey is proof that it's never too late to step into that spotlight, and not for anyone else but yourself. So wherever you are in this journey, know this: you are not behind, you are not lost, you are becoming. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Women's Wellness Authority. If today's conversation inspired you, shifted your perspective, or sparked something within you, I'd be so grateful if you'd subscribe, leave a review, or share this episode with someone who might need it the most. Have a story of your own or something you'd like to share? I'd love to hear from you. You can connect with me on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook at Women's Wellness Authority. Please note the content shared on this podcast is for informational purposes only and is not a substitute for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always consult with a qualified healthcare provider regarding your health and wellness decisions. Until next time, stay curious, stay empowered, and most of all, stay well. Thanks, everyone.